sports, and cars. Hated school. So I stopped going, and I got thrown out. They took my permit away because I came from Humboldt Park. So I had to go to Thule. Thule was a rough school, and there weren't many Jews there. And I went there, and I was extremely depressed. And so after a half a year, I called Roosevelt back, the principal. His name was Dr. O'Brien. And I said, please take me back. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you behave yourself, if you turn your life around, if you get a B average, if you have perfect attendance, no tardies, you come back. So I finally came back. My grades were so bad that it took me 4.5 years to graduate from high school. Out of 188 students, I was 187. A double shot. And so, my best friend comes to me and he says, you know, his name was Solomon. We're never going to go to college. He said, let's join the Army. We'll be the first 2 Jewish generals. I was so uneducated and so uninformed that I did not know that you have to go to officer candidate school to be an officer. So we joined the Army. It was the buddy system. The buddy system lasted only through basic training. And then he goes to Fort Sam Houston, Texas to be a cook, and I go to Korea. I get to Korea, not only am I the only Jew in the entire country, but I thought I was the only city boy. Everybody was from Arkansas and Alabama, Tennessee. And to give you a little anecdote about anti-Semitism, I was in the truck, and I just arrived in Korea, and I was stationed on the DMZ, the demilitarized zone. And the truck is driving me up the side of the mountain, and the driver said, this is where you live, and he pointed to a Quonset hut. If you've ever seen a Quonset hut, it looks like it's made out of tin. There were about 10 bunks in there. We had no running water. We had to put a pill in the polluted water to drink it. We had no electricity. And it was a Sunday. There were no non-coms around. There were no officers. And I walked into this Quonset hut. There were about 8 guys. And I saw an empty bunk. And so I got up on the empty bunk, and I'm reading a magazine that I bought in Tokyo at the PX. How many of you saw the movie Deliverance? Well, within about 5 minutes, every civilized man's worst nightmare happened to this Jew. Because this guy, who looked like the star in Deliverance, I weighed about 150 pounds. His neck was bigger than my thigh. He had beady eyes. His breath smelled like a camel. He was a mean guy. He was about 6'2", 230, and he walks up to my bunk, and he said to me, are you from Chicago? And I'm thinking, now how does he know that? And then it occurred to me, the truck driver must have put my personnel file out because headquarters was closed. So I said, yes. He said, what do they do in Chicago besides get run over by trucks and get shot at? So I'm a pretty fast thinker. I'm thinking, boy, this war is about to start. What are my options? I could run, but I'll end up in North Korea. I could give up. I don't get on trains. And so I took the third option, and I did what I had to do. And he went to the hospital. And I'll bet you when he got out of the service and got discharged, I'll bet he went home to Arkansas and said, don't mess with the Jews. I took good care of him. Did anybody here grow up with anti-Semitism in the old neighborhood in Chicago? Well, let me give you a couple of examples. I had on one side of me a guy named Genu, on the other side a guy named Stashu, and then we had some Italians, we had some Slavs, and of course Jewish people. But one day, my friend Genu and I had an argument about something trivial, and his father came home from his work at the factory. He pulled into the alley, which was our playground, in his old '39 black Ford, He walked out with his black little lunch pail, walked up to me, slapped me, called me dirty Jew. So I grew up with a lot of that. I got called dirty Jew a lot, Cheney, Kike, he. I remember I'd go to my father. My father was an immigrant from Białystok, Poland. Luckily, he left before Hitler got there. And so I'd go home, I'd say to my father, some guys want to beat me up because I'm a Jew. So what should I do? And my father said, well, first of all, I thought it would end when I left Poland, but I was wrong about that. He said, I can only tell you what you can't do. You can't run. And you can't negotiate because they don't know any better. He said, I'm afraid you're going to have to learn how to fight. So I can fight. I learned how to throw a very nice left hook. So if some Jew hater wants to hurt me, and if I miss him with the fist, I'll catch him with the other. By the way, I told you that I was thrown out of high school. Tomorrow morning I'm speaking at that high school. I was invited to speak there. It's a big thrill for me. I hope I don't cry. I haven't been there in 60 years, but I'm going to tell the kids that I am just like them. I'm not a genius. I worked hard. And if they follow the right course and they're focused, they could do what I did. They could become a lawyer and drive a Mercedes or a Cadillac or whatever. I forgot to tell you. So I came home from Korea at the age of 20. My father waited about a week, and he called me into the bedroom, and he closed the door, and he spoke to me in Yiddish. People here speak Yiddish? Anybody? He said to me, Mein Sohn, was will der tun mit dein Leben? My son, what will you do with your life? I said, Pop, I want to do what you do. He was a house painter. He said, I don't want you to do that. He said, because you're going to come home every night with paint in your eyes, fumes in your lungs, and then you're going to get older, your back's going to go out. He said, be a lawyer. I said, I wish. I can't. I got thrown out of high school. I never read a book until college. My father said, you could be president. You're smart. I said, no, I want to be a painter. He said, okay, Boychik, you start tomorrow. And he had me painting closets on the south side of the projects. On the third day I came home, I had more paint on my face than the closet. I said, Dad, guess what? I'm going to be a lawyer. Well, now, we had no money. So I have to come up with a plan. How is a poor boy going to become a lawyer? I got to work. I got to work. So I came up with a plan, and the plan was this. I will not have parties. I rarely went to a movie. No vacations. The plan was I work and I study, and I work and I study. I told my father, I said, it's going to take me a long time, Dad. It's going to take me 4 years to graduate from college, 3 years to go to law school, 4 years if I go at night. He said, you know what? My father was very smart. He said, 8 years are going to come and 8 years are going to go. So you could do the 8 years going to parties and going to movies and all that other stuff, or put in the time and the 8 years will pass and somebody's going to call you counselor. Sounded good to me. My father would tell me, see, my relatives didn't think I had what it takes to achieve great things. I got no encouragement from them, only from my father, my mother. So my father said to me, I want you to visualize that you're an attorney and you're wearing a suit. And instead of making money carrying things on your back, you have a pen. And you're going to walk into court and the judge is going to call you counselor. And not only that, you're going to come to your office and you're going to have your relatives who don't think you could amount to anything waiting in the lobby to see you, and you're going to tell the secretary to tell them you're busy, they have to wait. So he got my attention. As far as boxing, where I grew up, every Jewish man wanted to be a boxer, heavyweight champ, everybody. And not only that, as an adult, all my